All right, so I'm currently on the phone with Andrew. He's another musician that reached out about the interview series. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the chance to introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Andrew Ruiz. I am a 31-year-old musician who's spent most of my time in California in different arts and music communities.
Excellent. So with these interviews, I always like to focus on, how you got into music and that line. So why don't you give me some details about, how you first found music and what about it was important enough to you to want to pursue it?
Okay. Well, music has actually always surrounded my life since I was born. My parents were both DJs, probably starting in the 70s or 80s. And then my oldest sister was a DJ in the 90s and 2000s. I was born in the 90s, and every Friday night we'd have Friday night jam nights. And then around fifth grade in elementary school, I joined the elementary school band because my best friend was joining and I wanted to be cool like him. Um, we only were in band together for 1 year, and then I spent the next, I guess, 7 years of high school and middle school in band as well. I started as a trumpet player, but in high school, I missed the summer camp program where we learn our marching band show, so they put me into the orchestral pit for the marching show. And then from there, I fell in love with percussion. And then towards the end of high school and early college is sort of when I kind of culturally grew out of my child's perspective, I guess, and realized that music was going to be a major part of my life. And it was also a way of me getting out of the mental health struggles that I was dealing with at the time.
Okay. So just to take a couple steps back, you mentioned that you were playing trumpet in, the regular curriculum for school. Were you learning an instrument outside of that, or was through, school your main exposure to learning an instrument?
Um, well, it's interesting. I think at that there's as I've gotten older, there's been many different maybe levels or eras of what music has meant to me. And at that time that I was in school, it was really kind of like a school subject, and I really loved it, but I didn't really learn the qualities that would make me the musician I am today, as far as like soulfulness. Um, but I was kind of just like in a school class. But around mid high school, I kind of started to come into my more rock and roll, hip hop type of personality. And then by college is when I kind of dropped the mentality of marching band and school and kind of started to look for my own style and my own approach to music. And right around high school graduation, around that time of life, is when I really started to have an idea of what I wanted to be as a musician creatively and kind of figuring out what worked for me cathartically.
Okay, and so you kind of used some ambiguous terms there, like how you found your soulfulness, and how you wanted to create, and then how you saw yourself as a musician. Let's add some quantification to that, and was it through learning a specific instrument? Was it through writing lyrics? Was it through learning how to record music? Just give some detail about your process.
Okay, sure. Well, I think at the time that I was in high school, I didn't know this yet. It wasn't until later in life that I realized this. But there was a lot of competitiveness in marching band, and it really kind of affected me internally, and I didn't really recognize it until I was older. But all the times that I was doing music in school, I was always trying to like be better than the people around me and trying to get like first chair or like section leader or we were still working together as a team to be better than the other schools, but there was always this like sense of militancy that was kind of on my drive, or my like in the back of my head that was driving me. Um, and when I kind of started becoming my own person as an adult, I didn't have that competitive aspect anymore. And I still had these skills that I learned from music classes, but now I had a way to kind of look at who I was and what cultures and what subcultures I wanted to be a part of. I was able to look at the music I listened to as just like for pleasure, as the type of music I wanted to make instead of doing the music that was assigned to me.
Hmm.
Um, Music has always kind of been the guiding light of which communities I want to be a part of. Um, I think civil rights and activism has always been something important to me, and the link between hip hop and rock and roll has kind of also been this guiding light of where I want to put myself culturally, and then culturally is kind of another part of what type of sound I want to use my musical skills with.
Okay, and so you mentioned, that as you grew out of, the school system and educational system to learn trumpet and whatever, you found a passion in percussion. Are you playing drums now for your projects, or how are you contributing to your projects that you're working on?
Yeah, so again, the kind of like era between high school and maybe my mid 20s, so like around 25 or 26 or so. So around like age 16 to 25 is a chunk of time where um, I learned a lot through drumline, and it taught me a lot about how to play rhythmically. And for that next like 10 years or so, I applied a lot of rhythm to the instruments such as guitar and piano and bass. It took me a few years before I ever started to really focus in on how to understand the layout of a guitar or a bass, which is where I'm at now. But marching band and drumline has always kind of been this uh, like basis and foundation of how I approach any form of music, just an understanding of rhythm and time signatures. And in my more recent years is when I've been able to really understand the concepts of melody and the way a fretboard's laid out, uh, and that's what I'm pushing now.
Sure. And so, were you in any bands outside of school doing like the regular garage band type thing, or working with other people to make music, as a hobby while you were going through school?
Okay, um, so you mentioned earlier that we'd eventually get to a point of things that affected my path as a musician, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but between like age 20 and 25, I was doing a lot of really like just like pleasure jamming with friends. I would just try to find whoever wanted to jam, and we would just jam. And we'd record things, but it was never really like, it was not as focused. It was very just kind of like, oh, we've got classes. I'm studying psychology. My friends are studying their subjects, and we just make music for fun and pleasure, and we put it out. But it's really just kind of a hobby. Um, and then around age 25, I was in a warehouse fire, and all of my instruments were destroyed. And after that stage happened and I recovered from that, is when I have kind of started this modern era where it's really important for me to uh, not just do it as a hobby, but to really commit to this passion that has never died. And that's really where I'm at right now. Is uh, I'm really committed to making music my priority. I'm really committed to exploring relationships with other musicians, and really committing to those relationships and developing bands and quality recording and really evolving.
Excellent. So it sounds like you've come a long way, and you're in that mindset where you're ready to commit to the music. So where are you now? What are you working on?
Uh-huh. Well, as I mentioned, I was in Oakland, and after that fire happened, I traveled around, survived COVID, and made it in LA. And I've made maybe like one or two connections. I just got my bass fixed and was pointed in the right directions. And I'm really like on this kind of coming of age moment where the last thing I put out musically was like one of the first times it felt like I was really connected to the music I wanted to put out. And I think right now I'm on this precipice where um, I'm starting to find the relationships that I can really trust the other person with and start creating a band with. I'm really committed to applying concepts of just music theory and everything, and just really in the like exercise mentality, and just really committed to the like getting in shape essentially. And I feel like within the next year or so I will be pretty regularly creating music, and hopefully already at a point where I'm performing with the people I've started to connect with.
Sure. So are you currently in the process where you're looking for musicians to, get on the same page that you're on and kind of commit to that year vision where, in a year or two where you're actually out there doing shows?
Yeah, that is pretty much where I'm at right now. Yeah, I play music every day. I don't have my computer right now to record, but um, it's kind of like allowing me to really focus on getting into shape and not making a product, to the point where when I do have my tools, I'll be flourishing at that moment in time. And I feel like I strayed a little bit away from the question you asked, but
No, I think you hit it. You're auditioning people, you're looking for musicians, you're currently trying to get a lineup together.
yeah, I want to find the people who are like I said, I play music every day, and it's something that is really dear to my heart, and I'm really honoring that for myself now. And I want to find musicians who also honor it uh, for themselves. And I'm hoping that when that chemistry connects, there'll be some sparks.
Sure, definitely. So, why don't you share a couple of your most prominent memories surrounding music, whether it was a show you went to or a fire that you were in, something that happened that really kind of stuck with you that motivates you to keep playing music?
hmm well, I think the things that really have kept me alive, regardless of whether I have like something to put out in the world or not, the thing that keeps me committed to, um, you know, continuing to play music, uh, have been some regards to either community or mental health. And I think two main things really are impactive in my life. One, when I was younger, maybe early 20s or so, I dealt with a lot of mental health issues, and having a drum set for me uh, was a way of getting out of an obsessive compulsive mindset. And it was around that time that I realized music therapy was a profession that I could go into. And I think the way I've healed through my own mental health has been something that's allowed me to really connect with others, connect with the process of making music, and really share that with other people and within the community as well. There's a lot of um, that shows up in the community as well. And I think where I was at the Ghost Ship warehouse with those other artists and other creative community members really gave me a sense of I guess just that these things can exist. The fact that all these people that we look up to as musicians, they're not as far away from us as they might seem. We seem to kind of put them on a pedestal, which they are very talented, but it's also really accessible. And having that many artists and that many people who are just natural about the way they are creative, it doesn't have to be perfect or competitive like I thought it was in high school. It's just a matter of connecting with other people, and it's a form of intimacy, and it's probably one of the most natural human intimacies that we've had since the creation of humans. And I think that's one of those things where no matter how happy in life I am or how hard and how much trauma I might face, music is always something that will get myself and the people around me through whatever comes.
Excellent. That's a very potent message. That's good stuff. Since you're in the process of looking for people and you don't necessarily have something materialistic to promote, where can people find you if they're interested in getting on your page and working with you and helping you, attain that vision?
Yeah, well, the Instagram, I mentioned I am in the process of creating these things. They're not quite publishable yet, but I will be hopefully putting out some stuff on Instagram, electric dot vibrance, spelled just as it sounds, electric period vibrance. And then my Bandcamp project that I did during COVID, that is, let me get that address for you. It's right here. It is homeostasis, HOMEOSTASISAER period bandcamp.com/album/2020 hyphen vision. Is that the best way to say that?
Yep, that works. I can definitely make sure that the links are attached to the video and everything in the podcast. So I always like to give the person I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out their last word. So a message that you just want to put out there that you generally vibe with.
I mean, I guess just what I'm creatively dreaming for is having a sense of psychedelic dance punk is kind of that sound I'm going for. And I feel like the way that you can kind of, uh, just get together and play with people and just free yourself through dance and music is kind of representative of all the things I am saying here. Is it's my life, and community is really important, and I don't really feel like there's many things that bring people together as the way music and dance does.